everyone. Being Women's Week, we could not actually ignore the hashtag that is doing so much of buzz on social media. That is hashtag break the bias.
Yes, Archana, while it's very inspiring and motivating, but you're right. The social circle is entirely exploded with this topic. And it's amazing how different perspectives are coming out on this little topic that we have. A little but a very strong, impactful topic, I would say. So I'm glad we chose it, and we had to wait for International Women's Day to talk about it. But having said that, better late than never. Let's talk about it. And I think interesting thing will be to also address the solution part of it. Like, how does one address it? And I think we can talk about it from our individual experiences. What do you say?
Absolutely. And I think biases can be different for different people into different scenarios. So let's discuss how these biases can affect different segments in different ways, and how, whether they are prevalent or whether they are gone, let's not go into that junction, but see how we can manage it well at this point in time.
True. First of all, Archana, I think I do want to address the fact that break the bias, when we say hashtag break the bias, this is not going anywhere. It's not a problem that you're going to get rid of. Okay. We can call it as an environmental aspect, which is always going to stay. Like, you have oxygen and you have water and you have basic resources around you. The biases are going to exist. As long as the human race is existing, we'll always have biases around us. So first of all, we're not trying to completely remove these biases. That cannot happen. The other thing I think which is important to address is that we see that when people are talking about breaking the bias, yes, very relevant, and first and foremost bias that comes to our mind is the gender bias. But you would agree that biases are not just limited to gender, right? There's so many that I've personally experienced. I have observed it happening around us. I may have myself been a provider of those biases. I may have my own biases somewhere. But to name a few, like, there could be biases around age. I'm experiencing it today.
Absolutely.
There are biases around cultural aspects. There are religious biases. There are regional biases. There are biases so much so that, I've seen it in corporate world happening around small town, uptown. The point of the matter is that it exists in so many different forms. So let's not just limit it to our vision to only gender bias just because it's a Women's Day and we want to talk about it. Yeah. So yes, it is going to exist. Important thing to note, it is going to exist. It is different type of bias that you need to be aware of, and it's not going anywhere. So I guess the power, I personally believe, is in your own hands, and I think you can take some bit of control in your hands when it comes to breaking the bias. What do you say?
I totally agree with it. Like how you mentioned in the last frame, wherein we need to carry the power to change the thought. So I think it's all about changing the narrative. Like how you said, the biases are not going anywhere till the time we want them to go. Again, the concept stands here, how you uplift yourself, how you upload yourself and create yourself in a way that these biases don't dominate you. So basically, you get yourself rid of these biases in your own head and you start functioning in a way which is much more positive and uplifting, not for anybody else, but for yourself first, because what you do is what you're going to radiate. So if we are going to be talking about bias every year on this specific day, which whether prevalent or not prevalent, whether gone or not gone, we are still manifesting the same thing again and again. However, to move and make a entire universe get rid of this entire concept is only going to function when the way we work is going to be different than we just sitting and talking about it. Some action needs to be taken with self.
True. And very rightly said, Ashna, that when you say that we need to take an action. So what do? Do we wait for the world events to happen and these big conferences and these protests or candlelights happening? I think some bit of that is required to create the, to activate, to trigger some movements.
Yes.
But in my opinion, when I say breaking the bias, I think the solution lies in ourselves, and each one of us has to work through it. When the analogy that comes to my mind is that first step towards breaking the bias would be, in my opinion, is actually being aware and acknowledging the fact that the bias exists.
Absolutely.
Because you would notice, being women, I'm bringing the gender bias here, but being a women, there are certain things that we take as matter of fact.
Yes.
We are the home takers, we are the nurturers. These are all biases. Some of us may not want to be those nurturers, but we take that as a default state for us, and we start functioning from default up. So sometimes we are not even aware. So I guess the important thing is that let's be aware and let's acknowledge that there is a bias that exists. Second thing, in my opinion, which I would always recommend and I try and follow is, there are some biases that you could dodge. Like you don't have to face off all the biases. So, my favorite statement is choose your battles. Like you got to choose what bias you want to work, because yes, biases ke basis pe you have a lot of decisions. People very extreme and very important decisions are taken around that.
Yeah.
But we as individuals, we need to see that what that bias stands for and what it means to us in our life and how is it impacting. And basis that we need to see, do we need to dodge it right now? Do we need to attack it right there? Can we take that away with us and see and work through it and see how we can not let that happen in our circle of influence? I think there's so many ways you can deal with it, but the important thing is choose your battles, choose your biases, I would say.
Absolutely correct. And more so over, while you spoke about women as specific, again, not here being gender specific.
Yeah.
As women, when we kind of get entitled that certain things are supposed to be done by women, some things are supposed to be done by men, I think there again we go wrong. And today again, while we are actually talking on the same forum, we are still actually putting a frame to it that these tasks are supposed to be done by women. I think time to break, not by putting the society or pulling the society together, but pulling it in our own mind that such biases are not going to affect me.
Yeah.
It's affecting me. That means I'm still in that conditioning. I'm still getting bothered about it. I'm still feeling guilty about not doing certain tasks because a woman is supposed to do or a man is supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think breaking that conditioning and moving out on our own is something that we will need to practice, one. And being consistent about it is something that is going to bring the change.
Like you said, and another thing that comes to my mind is that these biases are not just limited to our country.
Yes.
It's not something which the developing country or only some third world countries have to face. I think this is, like I said, its existence is globally. I personally, in my corporate experience, I've seen there's a bias attached to Indian or Asian folks. Even around parenting, we have this, but in corporate world specifically, we say, if an Indian worker is there, that's assumed and that's presumed to be somebody who's going to be a yes person, is going to be relationship oriented, high on emotions. But those biases, they're gradually going away. But who's going to take care of that? We'll have to take things in our hands. So I think from solution perspective, I would say the only thing which can help us move forward and not fall victim to these biases is a very strong, like I said, acknowledgement and acceptance of the fact that bias exists. Choosing your battle course. Once you've chosen it, you've got to be a person with a strong conviction. Like you have to have a conviction in what you stand for, where you want to be. And if that conviction is there, you need to have that resilience to go forward with that conviction, because it's possible. It's a fact. Some of those biases may push you back on your forward path, but you've got to be having that resilience and that determination to keep moving forward, come what may, right? And most importantly, I think I won't say as a mother, but as a parent or as a person with certain circle of influence. It could be your family, it could be your friends. These little things you could stand up as a role model for those specific biases that are around you. And I'm sure in future, these biases, they will fade out, but the new ones will evolve. But I think the only remedy I feel, the only formula here is that what can you do in your influence and what is in your control, and that is be resilient, be strong, be courageous, and choose your battle, choose your biases.
Absolutely. Be the voice and stand up with what you believe in.
Yes, so we didn't want to complicate it with too much of scientific way of dealing with biases. Of course, we are two powerful women in our own ways. We deal with our life, and there's a lot more to learn and take away from what is happening around us. But I thought it would be I think it's a good, interesting perspective and genuinely a personal takeaway from this.
I think that was a good conversation, and for people to understand, if you have anything that you wish to share with us, we would love to hear from you. Please leave it in the comment box. And we'll see you next week with yet another topic that matters. Until then, break all the biases.
Bye.
Bye.